Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Dave Albert. In this show, I talk about technology, building a company as a CTO and co-founder, and have guests to discuss their roles in technology and entrepreneurship. Today, we're joined by Alan Wixted, founder of No Place Like, a company in the augmented reality space here in Dublin, Ireland. Thanks for joining us, Alan. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me, Dave. Really looking forward to chatting with you again.
Yeah, absolutely. So could you tell us a little bit about you and No Place Like?
Yeah, for sure. So I kind of started out with the augmented reality in, I suppose, a bit of a strange way. I bought a Xbox Kinect, I'd say maybe in 2013, 2014 for €25, I think, in CEX. It was secondhand, and I think it didn't even have a box with it. But I discovered kind of a love of programming with it in processing. And I'd say there's maybe about roughly 0 to 1% of your audience who knows what processing is. It's like a little Java language, I think developed from MIT. And it was just such a fun way to learn to code because it was so visual, and it was so amazing to just like literally see something type into a screen and some crazy stuff pop up on the other side of it. It was just kind of revolutionary for me. And with the Kinect, I started working on this like little retail project for my final year project in college, where you could walk past a shop window, the Kinect would pick you up and track some information along the window to you. So like whether it's the latest shoes in the store or even just more of kind of an artistic display where I think I had like lots of particles and stuff and nearly melted my old MacBook with particle effects back in the day. Through open frameworks and processing. So that's kind of where I got into code, and I was like, all right, so this is kind of cool. And I liked the little business aspect to it, where I was like, oh yeah, I could kind of see this in a retail environment. And I suppose a year or two later, I just really discovered love of apps as well, and just was like absolutely fascinated the fact that instead of it launching on the same screen, the bit of code I'd written, that I could launch it on a different screen and I could launch it on other people's screens, and just got really into app development. Did a master's in interaction design, and that's kind of how I got into AR. So doing augmented reality apps for my master's thesis. Eventually started doing some hackathons and a startup weekend, and then kind of spotted that homeware was just such a big industry that had such low digitization and was so difficult to purchase things online for. It just seemed like a natural fit. And then seeing how the market was going with the likes of IKEA and Amazon and Wayfair and all those big guys moving there, I decided that, you know, retailers, especially like in Ireland, you know, the death of retail is kind of like a big topic all the time. And I suppose just trying to come up with some tech that would help retailers and help people like myself. You know, like I was just trying to buy a desk online one time, and now just about I can squeeze into my room. So I knew there was obviously shoppers out there having this issue. Retailers were having a lot of issues, and I just had a love of typing some crazy colored font into a screen. And I suppose they all kind of married together, and now I've got a small startup based in Ireland.
Very nice. So tell us just a little bit more about the product there that you're working on. So
yeah, so definitely, yeah. So like we basically specialize purely in creating AR content for retailers. So we take the 2D photos that they have on their websites and we turn those into super detailed 3D models. We don't go for the automated route like some of our competitors would, but we go for much more of a bespoke kind of high quality experience where you can see every texture, you can see every scene and every single pattern in an item, and we kind of work with those retailers to try and give us the best content possible to make those experiences possible for their shoppers. As oftentimes like the premium quality of the products, they really want to get that across through AR as well. So just with a simple line of code, we actually leverage Apple's ARKit 2 platform, where you can embed content directly within Safari and within Mail and iMessage. So with a click of a button, you can put a couch, a chair, a table, anything you want on or into your room. So it's a really nice service to use. And we're currently live, I think, in about 13 stores around the country with Easy Living Interiors. So obviously online is the biggest presence, but we're looking at doing a launch in store for Easy Living as well. I think they're launching a pilot of this in the Mahon Point store later on this month. Actually, I think the 25th of April to the 28th. So if you're in Cork, make sure to drop by.
Great. So just so the users can understand, or users, I've been thinking about software development all day. The listeners can understand. You would take an image, the 3D image, and send that to someone or download it. And then you could look through your phone into your room to see how that piece of furniture might fit. Is that
100%?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're using your phone as a lens basically to see something that isn't really there. It's really fascinating tech, really. I suppose I'm so close to it now that it's such a joy to show it to people who've never seen this before, and they're like, wow, that's amazing. Whereas I use this every single day to test our items and release new products. So the wow factor is lost to me a long time ago. So no, it's a great service to use. To be honest, it's such a pleasure to see people use it for the first time and just see that kind of moment of amazement to say that, like, wow, this is actually possible. It's real, and it's there today. It's not like some experimental tech in any fashion, you know.
Yeah. So with like the 3D imaging, the 3D models, is there a special photo technique? Make sure that you cover all of the. Well, is it just 360 degrees would just be around one axis. So
yeah, so
you're
raising lots of good points there, definitely. We'd actually so it's the if you wanted to kind of, let's say, automate the process, like one of our competitors, for example, will try and take photos of all around a product, just as you imagine there, not even just 360 degrees horizontally, but also up and down and around. And obviously it's quite time consuming and quite computationally heavy for a computer to do as well. Whereas what we do is more of like a game design process, like something you'd see in a visual effects movie or PlayStation game or PC game. We actually just use the manual process of recreating the item almost like out of a clay block is kind of how I describe it, and being nicely painted. So it's like artistic CAD is the easiest way to describe it.
I gotcha. So do you do that? Do you do that personally, or do you have artists, or is it more like engineers that would do that? What type of person creates that model?
It's traditionally it will be a game asset artist would do it. So someone who's probably worked in a leading game studio would do this for us. Yeah, so like a texture artist, a 3D modeler, that type of thing.
Okay. Do you like have a network of those people? Do you have a specific person? Is there someone working with you, or outsourced, or?
Yeah, all of the above, really. We've got really good connections as well with the Limerick Institute of Technology, who've been really good to us and really pulled it out of the bag with some of their best graduates in LIT Clonmel. So we've got two really good graduates working for us, Elizabeth O'Connor and Ryan Dykes, who I imagine will be one of Ireland's or two of Ireland's best designers coming up. But they're just amazing artists, texture artists and 3D designers, who are just making some really good content for us right now. Other than that, we've got people based all around the world, from as I say, from Clonmel to Kiev, basically, is how I describe it. We've got people everywhere working for us, which is just absolutely amazing to, I suppose, leverage the power of the internet. Just it kind of blows me away sometimes that I can hire someone in Armenia who can churn out content for us on a daily basis, which is just it boggles my mind sometimes just to see the scale that's out there.
Yeah, it's, the world that I grew up in is a lot different than it used to be. I'd say, exactly. I've been in Ireland for 11 years, and when I moved here, there wasn't a very good ability to even use Skype. I mean, it did exist, but like the computers and the internet connections didn't really support it so well. So I remember I was actually in an internet cafe trying to ring back home so that I could talk to people, because, you know, it was, before smartphones. I mean, there might have been, like, I'm sure I still had a Palm Pilot at the time, being the nerd that I am, but I was already here when the first iPhone came out. So just seeing what's different now, where we basically live in Star Trek.
It's amazing. I mean, like I kind of say, like the real land of opportunity is my laptop. You know, it's and a Starbucks. You know, like Starbucks is, for me, Starbucks and a laptop to me is the best possible combination. It's €5 a day for your office, and your coffee's included. Is kind of how I say it. So like that kind of combination for me is just being able to work from anywhere and connect with anyone on the planet. It just kind of blows my mind, and it's definitely kind of humbling, the opportunity that's out there for us.
So other than the freelancer types and the people that you use to create the assets, are there any other people in your company?
Yeah, so we've got myself. Mark O'Sullivan is he's kind of, for the next, let's say, I would say 1 to 2 months, taking a slight pause to finish his final year project in product design. It's probably one of the most intense courses in the country, so he definitely needs the little bit of slack from us at the moment on just being left alone. But come summertime, I imagine Mark will be back with us, and Mark's a fantastic designer as well. He works with our 3D designers and QA tests all our stuff, project manages everything, and just basically makes sure our content is great and on time and on budget. So he's a valuable part of the company for sure.
That's great to hear. What made you decide that it should be, a company? How did you start that process? What were your first few steps? And of course, as we all make missteps.
Definitely, yeah. So I guess what I decided it should be a company, I guess, is seeing the shoppers use this, and I suppose the trend of ARKit was really it. I mean, like, once I saw ARKit get released, I think actually, yeah, that was it. I was working on this stuff before ARKit got released for maybe 6 months. And I was trying to mess around with this SDK on Android called Kudan. And my God, it was the biggest headache ever. The documentation didn't match the tutorials, which didn't match the comments, which didn't match the support files. It was just chaos. And the demo projects didn't run. And I was just absolutely stuck. And then ARKit got announced. WWDC would have been 17, I guess, maybe even 16. I feel like I'm getting old, but when ARKit got announced, I was like, okay, yeah, there's something here for us to do, and obviously just worked really, really hard at I suppose trying to teach myself iOS development online. So literally just YouTube tutorials and Udemy videos and things like that. Got our pilot launched, and got some really good data from that back with some of the retailers. So massive thank you to those guys involved. So I suppose after seeing people use it and the data come back, I was like, all right, there's something here for sure. The missteps for sure for us, back in the original days, I guess, of launching this in an app, was I should have not done any free trials. Or free demos. As much as I needed the data, I think that it would have been a lot more conducive for us to say, like, no, the trial costs money, and just recognize, really, if people aren't willing to pay that money, that they're not my target customer, and kill two birds with one stone. I suppose that delayed me by about, I'd say, 3 months, just to really, really validate and be a bit more ruthless, I guess. I wouldn't even say ruthless, but more I suppose confident will be the way to describe it in the sales process. To say like, all right, look, it's fine that you don't want to purchase this, but I'm going to move on to someone that does want to purchase this, and just acknowledge that quicker in the process. I'd say will be one of the missteps that we made early on. So if we'd done that, I think we probably would have had some great data anyway, but with some paying customers who we would then obviously be able to validate as potential future clients and in our target market, et cetera, you know. So that would have been one of our early missteps. One of the steps that I recognized pretty quickly that was wrong with what we had is that retailers just did not want to get people onto an app at all. Everyone I showed to, my demo would basically revolve around showing them a piece of AR content, and they'd be like, wow, this is absolutely incredible. I can't wait to use this. What do I need to do? And I'd explain to them, all you need to do is get all of your users to download this app. And then they'd say, okay, that seems a bit convoluted. And so is it my own app? And I'm like, nope, there's other people on the app too. And that, like, as soon as I'd say that, kind of all the retailers were like, nope, they're fully willing to open a store next to each other or do all that stuff. But if you just say like digitally next to each other, they just don't want to be. They want to be a million miles away from each other. So it's a fascinating culture, I guess, in terms of like you'd see ASOS with brands like Adidas and Nike right next to each other. But in the retail space, it seems to be a little bit different here. So I kind of acknowledged that early on, though. So I was kind of ready for that. And then, as I said, with ARKit 2 coming out, we have the ability to do this within the web natively. So there's no app download anymore. So it's a much more natural fit, and we can focus just on the content, really.
Yeah, that's got to be fantastic to be able to get your product into people's hands with less reasons to be able to say no.
Yes, exactly.
We started iOS only, and we're in the process of and almost ready to ship our Android version.
Amazing.
But it's still, there's a lot to it, and I don't know any way that we could have done it without multiple native applications. But obviously that's taken us a lot more time than anyone would like. So being able to skip the app step is pretty interesting. And, in fact, I was at the Dublin Tech Summit 2019 the last 2 days, and I saw a presentation from someone from Mozilla, Firefox AR browser or VR browser. Sorry. And they were talking about, there's a large ecosystem of virtual reality applications that are built for the virtual reality browser. So that was really interesting to see. So I just see an interesting corollary there with how you were able to skip past the app step and reduce friction.
So you said just to follow on there, I suppose naturally you mentioned that you'd seen the Mozilla AR VR browser, is it? Yeah.
So that you can. So sorry, listeners, we had a little technical difficulty, but I think we're okay now. So I was talking about the Firefox VR browser. So there are virtual applications that are actually part of, usable within the virtual reality browser. And I've found that an interesting corollary to how you're able to skip around needing an application.
Definitely. I mean, like I've been looking at that stuff for ages beforehand, and just really been dying for a service like ARKit to come out, or ARKit 2, I should say. So as soon as that launched, I just knew straight away, all right, now's the time to go. It's a race. Let's see who's going to win it, basically. So I knew there was a space there for us to get into.
Yeah. Do you see any, not a noob, all things AR and VR. I've in fact never used VR, unfortunately. Do you see anything in the space of the two together? I would assume there is, but I wouldn't know how either of the two verticals would consider, if you understand what I'm saying. So augmented reality within a virtual reality context.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, like if you think about it, in VR, you should be able to interact with, like, anything's possible in VR, I guess. Actually, let me try and take that question on I suppose a bit of a tangent. I don't know if you've seen what Google have brought out recently with their Stadia project.
No, I have not.
So Stadia is a basically gaming, like if you could imagine your ideal gaming rig, it's basically you can use a Google server as your gaming rig, which is unbelievable.
Oh.
So you can pick up this, you can start playing, let's say, I think Assassin's Creed was the example that they used, where you can pick up Assassin's Creed on a mobile device, transition from the mobile device to an iPad, transition from that to a mouse and keyboard on a laptop, and then transition from that to a PlayStation controller on a TV. And all the time you're streaming 4K content in HDR from a Google server onto each of those respective screens with all their different control types. And I think that doing, like, I suppose my overarching point here is, especially for us, like once we develop all this content, we're now asking ourselves, okay, how can we increase the value of this content, per file? And we're looking at platforms like Facebook and Instagram. What they're doing with their AR platforms is unbelievably interesting to us. And again, then with VR is a natural complement to us. So I suppose when we're talking about transitional technologies and complementary technologies, for us, content is the commonality between them all. In that, if we create a sofa for a company, firstly, like obviously our main service is to produce that in an AR environment, but we'll obviously be looking at, coming up soon, is to say like, oh, can we do a retail experience in VR that attracts people into a store, and leverage that same content repeatedly across different platforms and different devices and experiences. I suppose that's kind of a roundabout way of answering that question.
That's it. That wasn't where my mind was going. Mine was going into obviously more of the gaming space, because that's where at the moment VR shines. I mean, I know there are loads more applications for it. Training of medical procedures being one of the ones that I'm actually aware of. But
with RSMD, is it?
Not positive of the specifics of it. I didn't just know that I've consumed content somewhere that was telling me about it.
Perfect. No, I actually met the two founders of RSMD and at ARVR Innovate. I don't know if you're familiar with that conference, but for anyone that's listening, I'll be there this year if you want to drop by. Is the two founders are absolutely lovely. Definitely check out the company there online, but they're doing some fascinating stuff with 3D tech and like brain scanning images, I think. So like you can view as opposed to viewing a brain scan normally on just like literally slivers of the scan. Doctors will ignore, let's say, I can't remember the stat they gave, I don't want to quote it incorrectly, but let's just say that they'll ignore 75% of the info for the sake of time and be able to like snapshot their way through a brain scan, versus with what they can do with this is to get the whole thing done in 3D and explore the person's brain in 3D. It's absolutely fascinating to see what they're doing with that stuff.
That's really interesting. So I know that you were in a few accelerator type programs. What were the steps there that you went through? Which programs, and what value did you get from each of them differently?
Yeah, so I mean, like the thing that really kickstarted me into business, I suppose, business tech and entrepreneurship specifically, was, I don't know if they've run it again, but the ESB did a thing called the Big Energy Hack. And it was a hackathon event that I suppose had people from all different disciplines, whether it was design, code, software, and then specifically ESB people were in the program too, which is super interesting. But they had a few kind of key streams, and it was on in Dogpatch Labs in Dublin. And I suppose that was my first experience to like a co-working space as well. I can't even remember how I signed up to this thing. I think I just found one of a good Facebook ad back in the day. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll put my name down for that. went to it and ended up winning it, and it was just such an unbelievable experience. And I kind of said to myself, hey, look, now I know we won it, but I suppose I was just absolutely thrilled with it and enjoying it through the whole weekend. Is that, hey, look, if I can stay up until 2 a.m. working for free on a weekend, I might as well start my own business. You know? So that was the kind of logic for me on it. And that kickstarted me there. I was like, all right, cool. It just melted like the two parts of my brain together, where I was like, all right, there's tech, and then there's business stuff. And then if we do it right, if we get both of those bits right together, we can actually have something that's really fun to work with. Because before in college, I had always done these like tech projects, and my course was a bit more artsy focused. And I was always thinking to myself, look, no one's going to buy this. And like, this is just kind of like a useless exercise. I'd love to apply this to a company or something like that. And it just never sunk into me that I should be in the startup-y space, because it just wasn't part of my environment. And that's where I kind of went on to do a startup weekend. Again, that was kind of a catalyst for me. New Frontiers was another program I went on. That was great because I had zero business experience coming into it. And it was just I suppose a boot camp in how to operate a company and know a little bit about everything. And I love that as kind of a CEO, is just being dangerously knowledgeable in each area. And getting the experts in to help out with each category. I absolutely love that part of it. The jack of all trades, really, I guess, is kind of how I'd see myself how I would have seen myself in college, as being really interested in the audio side, the video side, the tech side, and this being the head of something kind of allows me to do that. And then Startup Boost was just an amazing program for us. The Gene Murphy and Carolyn Quinlan at Startup Boost here. I think I don't know if anyone's familiar with it, but I think it's a like a pre-accelerator program sponsored by Techstars and the Global Accelerator Network and F6S. So it was just absolutely incredible quality mentorship with it. The mentors there were just so high level, and it just gave me such a great appreciation of the pace that I needed to go at, the intensity that I needed to sustain, and that's something I didn't get from any other program. It was just that kind of like, wow, this is what it means to be a successful entrepreneur and not just an entrepreneur.
So what so I know you said you've got some customers already. What stage do you consider yourself at now?
Oh, I definitely consider myself like a baby in terms of a company. Like, absolutely new to this stuff. We're really only getting started. In terms of a company, we've just applied for a competitive start fund, which is for anyone abroad, is the Enterprise Ireland's funding program for early stage startups, where it's a 50 grand funding. So we're hoping to use that to try and scale our service, get more sales. Regards our processes and our tech, we're relatively ready to go. We just need to get out there and get in front of these companies who have never heard of us, who likely have never heard of augmented reality, and are available to get the benefits from it today. So we're really excited to get out there as quick as possible, and just, I suppose, looking to work with Enterprise Ireland and other funding schemes and investors to accelerate us along the way.
So are you able to return any analytics of the augmented models, like the usage of them?
Unfortunately, I can't share them in the Irish space. Unfortunately, I can. It's all I can say is I'm absolutely astounded and thrilled with the results that we're getting. But I can give you a ton of really cool industry data. Actually, there was a really cool survey published from, I think it was Retail Perceptions, and they surveyed 200 people in each category and showed them a 2D ad next to a toy. And people, I think they said that 45% of them said they'd buy the toy, and they assigned a average price of £4.99 to the toy. And when they showed them the same toy in AR, they 74% would buy the toy at £7.99, the exact same product. So they enjoyed the experience so much, and it attributed that enjoyment as a service, and I suppose extrapolated that enjoyment and quality of service into the product itself, which was so fascinating. Because like a marketer could never walk up to someone on the street and say, "Hey, watch this 30-second commercial of this toy, and I'm going to charge you more for it." You know, it's a really fascinating flip on ads, which are essentially is an ad. Like, you know, it's a 3D ad, but people are willing to pay for the service as opposed to feel like it's a drain on their life, like a pre-roll video on YouTube.
You know that I know that you're focused in the space of what did you call it? Homeware, houseware?
Yes, yeah, homeware, yeah.
Homeware. So more of the larger furniture type things, but I could see it as such a nice selling tool for smaller, handcrafted, say, decremental, ornamental type of you know, like woodworkers or those type of things that they have small budgets but have unique products that really make a lot of difference, being able to see them in their space. Are you interested at all in those type of retailers, or you still just focused mostly on furniture for now?
I'll never say no to a project for sure. I have a real hesitation about that. But for us to achieve scale in creating the most high quality products, we have to kind of work with retailers that have products from manufacturers, so that we can work with multiple retailers at once.
Gotcha.
But again, it depends on the product, really. So like some really simplistic products, like I remember seeing some bar carts, like literally just something you put some drinks on and wheel around your house. There was a guy in Florida, I think, making those. I must reach out to him again now that you mentioned it. You've just kind of sparked that back in my head there. It was about 2 years ago since I last chatted to him on Instagram. Like I'd definitely be interested in like, our goal really is to kind of help retailers compete with giants. Whether they're small or medium sized in the global scale or micro, you know, I'd definitely be open to helping retailers out. I mean, like trying to compete on the tech space with Amazon and Wayfair and Target is hard. But I think like with AR and with ARKit 2 and with the content that we're making, it's possible to actually provide the same service along this tangent specifically, if not better than what a lot of the big corporates are doing. So it's definitely a great thing for us to try and do, for sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I wonder whether tools like this are a differentiator or a type of thing that you have to do. You know, like you can't basically be a retailer now without an online presence, really. I mean, unless you're maybe one of a handful of brick and mortar stores. So I wonder if, you know, it's going to be these people are really interesting because they have AR, or who the hell are those guys? They don't have AR.
I think like it's a matter of time, to be honest. And it's just going to be a transition period, because at the moment, like one of our clients bought us purely so that they could have the best tech, and bought into us. I should say, not bought us, but bought into us purely because we had the same we could give them the best tech, and that's something that has a time limit. It's something that we say to all the clients we approach is, hey, look, the time's now. If you want to be seen as an innovator in the space, if you want to come back to us in 2 years' time, in 3 years' time, obviously really willing to do business, but that value proposition is gone by then. You're then a laggard to the industry. You get the same service, you get the same benefits, but you get a different cognitive approach from the consumer. Is to like, oh, you finally got the service, versus wow, you have this and it's amazing, and look at this, it's so cool. As I said, I've been working on this for probably 2 years now at this stage, and the effect has worn off on me pretty well in terms of that wow factor. So I imagine it's going to be the same for people across the board. Now, obviously, I've been looking at this every single day, so maybe, let's say 2, 3, 4 years time, people will expect to have this. On the competitive edge, though, what you mentioned there was really interesting, is like, can you afford not to have this? And when your competitors are getting, like, for example, the key study that I'd kind of mention is House in the States had 1 million AR content views and an 11x increase in people being likely to purchase. So like absolutely insane figures there. This is not a 10% boost to sales. It's not a 20% boost to conversion rates. It's much, much, much greater than that. And if your competitor has that and you don't, you're not just losing out on the vanity metrics and the perception, the public perception. You're losing out monetarily at the end of the day.
So sorry if I'm repeating myself because I've had a long couple of days, so my memory's kind of shot. From the time that one of your customers decides they want a product to be in the platform, how long between, obviously timings of staff availability are an issue, but basically what's the average time between, okay, we want that, to a product being available?
Yeah, I often find that the sales process just dwarfs that question in itself. So, like oftentimes by the time you received the email back, you could have had the product made. So, like, really, it's a funny question now that I think back on it. As in, like, if you'd replied to the email last week, we would have had it built by now. That type of thing we'd be looking at quite a bit. But no, definitely, like, it's a great question. It depends on the product itself. I mean, sometimes we can get stuff done in the same day. Sometimes it can take a week. It really depends on the product. We do a lot of smart stuff as well. Like we'd select multiple variants of the same product, whether it's colors, dimensions, sizes, all that stuff, just to give the retailers the best kind of bang for buck, and rollout speed as well. So yeah, like there's a lot of smart stuff we can do, anywhere between a day and a week, basically. But again, as I say, the sales process often is the biggest lag factor there than anything else.
Yeah, I was thinking about those early adopter, fast adopter types who are, shut up, take my money. How long until?
Oh, where are those?
yeah. They're coming.
But as I said to you before, put your credit card details in here. And
well, if only I sold retail, then I would definitely be a customer. But
I'm glad to hear it.
I don't think Medit quite suits.
You want to be damn sure the tracking's on point before.
If they want to see Medit on their phone, all they have to do is download it.
Exactly. Yeah, the tracking for AR medical stuff is you want to be sure the left is left and right is right.
Well, luckily we're not dealing with patient information. We're dealing with ongoing professional development. So. Don't even know how that would go AR wise. It would just look like a stack of papers, and most healthcare providers could just look over to the desk to see that.
Exactly.
I'm not sure how to say her name. Maria Kondo, the lady who will help joy in your belongings. Well, she has an AR product, and I can look around my house and remove all the clutter.
Oh wow! Okay, jeez.
I don't know that she's actually doing that, but I was thinking.
No, I get you. Is this the Netflix show? Is it?
Yeah.
I could deal with that, to be fair. But yeah, definitely.
So I want to see some AR that will remove things as opposed to add them into my house.
It's funny that you mentioned that, is because I think it's probably been memed before. But like, what does ad blocker for AR glasses look like? That you can walk through Times Square with no shining lights and no clutter and no billboards. I think it's kind of a fascinating concept, really.
That's interesting. Let's see. What haven't we covered that you think is important for people to know about AR or about your company?
Yeah, so I suppose in terms of the, like, for myself, like, one thing I'd love to have is discovered entrepreneurship sooner, and that's something that I in terms of, like, I'd be absolutely super passionate about. Like I went to a school there maybe a month or two ago, just to, I suppose, have a similar discussion that we've had here today, and just plant the seed of that this is a viable thing. Because like when I was growing up, it seemed kind of far fetched, and I just never glued it together. That all that PlayStation I could have been playing, I could have been a Twitch streamer, like there's just such a, I suppose, a wealth of opportunity out there, and if you're good at something, and if you're passionate and knowledgeable about something, that you can turn it into a marketable product. Like, if you've got 40,000 followers on Instagram because you love cups, and you're a cup collector, like that's someone will run ads on your platform for you. Like, it's fascinating to see what's possible nowadays. So I suppose just for me, I'd love to get into, I suppose, promoting it more. I've helped out a few startup weekends and things like that. But yeah, I suppose just trying to discover entrepreneurship sooner is something I'd definitely be passionate about.
Cool. What's your next steps?
Yeah, so for us, I think like this week we're waiting to hear back from the competitive start fund as to whether we get it or not.
Right. Yeah.
So that'll kind of lay us out in timing wise for the next few months. For the next steps, I'm really trying to scale up my sales process at the moment. Get out there, get to conferences, get in front of these companies that don't know about us, don't know about AOR, or if they do know about AOR, they haven't heard of us yet. So trying to scale up Facebook ads. Got some interesting talks coming up with Facebook themselves about their AOR platform. And it's fascinating to see what Instagram is doing. Instagram is going to be the best possible e-commerce platform that you can get on, or if not already is. And it's just skews so much towards popularity, in that everything, like every single e-commerce page out there, so every single Instagram page there now is now a fully fledged e-commerce website with checkout, with their AOR stuff that's coming, and in the works and half done. You can view products, market products, experience products, and buy products all within Instagram, and that's just something that's absolutely blowing my mind. That's possible to do.
That sounds really nice.
So I suppose just leveraging those platforms, I guess, is what's going to be key for us over the next, let's say, 6 to 12 months.
Brilliant. So who's your ideal customer? Mid to large size furniture or other homeware manufacturer?
Yeah, so it's really like anyone with a decent marketing budget and less than $1 billion in sales. I say less than $1 billion because the big guys are doing it themselves already.
Sure.
Like IKEA, etc. All those guys, they have the budget, they have the know-how, they have the marketing teams to be able to say that this is a good idea. Let's go for it. So definitely those smaller retailers. And when I say smaller retailers, like, they're still massively big companies. So definitely just getting into those guys and showing them the benefits. As I say, if they're abroad, giving them the case studies that we've worked on so far. But for us, like in terms of working with people, I'd love to work with some more furniture manufacturers, and try and bring this to their products and disseminate that to their clients, to their existing retailers, kind of a one-to-many sales process. So I'd love to work with more retailer or more manufacturers and more retailers, but by product. Ultimately, though, it'll be great to see some photos come in of people who've purchased products, the real versus the augmented real, and see the differences and see people use this in real life. As I said, we're getting some great data in at the moment, but we're really just trying to scale up and get this global.
Awesome. So anything else?
No, I suppose, like, if you haven't used AOR already, and if you have an iPhone, head to our website, experience it for yourself, and let me know what you think. If you're anywhere involved in the retail chain, pop me an email on Allen. It's ALLEN at noplacelike.co. And as I said, look, I'd love to try and help people discover entrepreneurship younger than I could. So I'd definitely love to try and help on that aspect also, and that's key.
Okay, so that's the email. I'll put the links to those things in the show notes. Is there any other social media platform that people should reach out to you on?
I'm probably most active on Instagram, so if you hit me up on Instagram or LinkedIn, it's just Alan Wixted on both platforms. So if you want the business side, and if you want the realistic side, the stressful night side, follow me on Instagram. If you want the glassy portfolio, follow me on LinkedIn. You know, there you go.
All right, great stuff. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, David. It's great to catch up with you again. It's great to hear about what Meta are doing, for sure.
Yeah, and I look forward to having you back after you've grown a little bit more.
Oh, I'd love to.
Great. And thank you all for listening. Until next time, remember, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.